Oh, mood lighting. I gotta have the front ones on. If you could turn those. Yep. That's the ones. Yep. Good. Thank you. I put this up just to let you know. Next Wednesday, the 20th, we're having our annual meeting. It'll be here. The meeting starts at 5:45. We'll have the meeting followed by a presentation by Greg Rudd on the history of hunting camps, all the way from Tupper Lake all the way down into this area here. Dessert's going to be available. We're going to have a table in the back with all kinds of desserts from Mary's Bakery, and we'll have some coffee and tea and things like that. So we invite you to come. We want to have you here if you're members. If you're not members, we want you to join. Good. I got to put a disclaimer out, first of all. I've been on a snowmobile once in my life. I was working up at Huntington. I went to Cortland, and I was working up at Huntington, and we had to go across to Camp Huntington, so that was my one trip. Charlie, I don't belong to the club, and they probably don't want me in the club, but anyways, thank you for that.
Well, you got me beat. I haven't been on a snowmobile at all.
Okay, good. I had to depend on the club members, and we met back in March, and then we met again in May. They have beautiful binders of photographs that they've taken over the years of every event you can imagine. Most of that is here because they had the history, they had the information. I was just able to put it together and do the presentation. I do feel a little like this is America's Got Talent, because in that back row over there is my judges. They're all the gang from the Barnstormers. I ask you, if I make a mistake, correct me. If I ask you for information because I don't remember what it was, somebody shout it out, because we want this to be as complete as possible. Snowmobiling is not a new sport, and I'm going to show you some slides that'll prove that, but it's been around since the turn of the century.
Not this century.
Oh no, the turn of the 1900s, thank you, yeah. You wouldn't see anything on the trails like this today. You'll see them in you know, shows and stuff where they have antique snowmobiles. But it was basically used to get from place to place. Hunters, trappers would use it for the trap lines. Up in Canada, they would use them for herding reindeer and traveling, fishing, hunting, whatever. It wasn't a sport. It was a means of transportation in the winter. Here's an Inuit up in Canada, and they're actually using it to herd reindeer. So it was a tool. It was a machine that was used for any kind of work that they needed. There were only a few companies to start with. Here's a picture of a Polaris. I doubt if you're going to break any speed records with that one. This is a sign. Oh, I meant to turn that down. This is a, Casey, could you go up and just, there's a knob on the bottom, and turn that down for me, please. This is a sign in Wisconsin. Wisconsinites experimented with over snow vehicles before 1900. Trying bicycles on runners with gripping fins, steam-propelled sleighs, and later Model T Fords converted with rear tractor treads and skis in front. In the first races held near Three Lakes in 1926, 104 of these snow buggies started the race. Carl Eliasson of Sainer developed the prototype of the modern snowmobile in 1924. When he mounted a small gasoline-powered marine engine on a long toboggan and steered with skis under the front and driven by a rear single endless track. He patented it in 1927 and made 40 snowmobiles. Upon receiving an order for 200 from Finland, he realized that was a little bit more than his garage could handle, and he sold his patent to the FWD company of Clintonville. They made 300 for military use and then transferred the patent to a Canadian subsidiary. This sign is 1975, and there are 2.5 million snowmobiles in North America in 1975. Annual sales exceed $1 billion and result in 100,000 jobs. Used even above the Arctic Circle, they provide not only recreation, but mobility for utility, repairmen, forest rangers, game wardens, mail carriers, and policemen. The snowmobile has become something more than just a sport. Here's one of the first ones in 1995. I don't think you would want to ride that for very long. He's got one ski in the front, the motor's in the back, and the rider looks like they're pretty cold. Bombardier, who is a huge manufacturer of snowmobiles, he had the air sled with a, looks like a propeller from an airplane, and then he built this snow bus, the B7 snow bus, which had an enclosed cab. Again, the engine mounted in the rear. They got tires with treads, with the treads on it, so that they could go in the snow. This was the Model T Ford 1923. They put skis on the front, put a belt on the over the tires, and took the back off so that they could store stuff in and so on. And you can see the snowshoes on the side, and they were ready to go. In 1924, the first snowmobile, Carl Eliasson invented the first snowmobile using a 2.5 horse Johnson outboard motor, 1/4 of a Model T radiator, 2 bicycle chains, and 2 pairs of downhill skis. And he was granted a patent on his motor toboggan in 1927. He went on to build 30 of the machines in the next 16 years in his garage in St. Air, Wisconsin, selling them at $350 a piece. For the next 31 years, Eliasson Snowmobile Manufacturing was the one lone lifeline of snowmobiling. How many have heard of him? Yeah, you know, he's long gone as far as the modern snowmobiles go today. There was his snow toboggan. Now, they've all got rifles in the hand, so you know where they're going. And they do have a windshield on there, so we're getting a little bit better. The motor is mounted in the front this time, but I can't imagine 2.5 horsepower pulling those 4 men from very far and very fast. The Tucker Snowcat was built by Bombardier, and this was the precursor to the groomer that would eventually be used later on to groom trails. But this was more like, I mean, this thing could go just about any place. You see these, something similar to these down in the Arctic now. Again, with the big treads, movable front steering treads and so on. And it's a lifesaver down there. Anybody recognize this? How many have gone to Ace Hardware?
Yeah, behind it.
Sitting right there.
Yeah.
Yep. This is the track vehicle, and again, it's for comfort. You know, you're enclosed. It's heated in there a little bit, anyways. Again, the tires are the ones that the tires drive the track, and the skis can be taken off in the front and put tires on it, so you can actually run this on a road in the summertime. This is the Polaris Snow Traveler. It's the first Polaris snowmobile. It was first introduced in 1956, designed as a utility tool for hunters and loggers and rural workers. It featured rear-wheel drive, via track, dual front skis for steering, 8 to 15 horsepower, and were made of aluminum and wood in its early versions. Later, using more, for newer models, they used more solid materials. It was produced up until 1965.
Yes, like you skipped a slide to get to that.
Probably held it too far.
Oh, there we go.
Okay, there we are. Thank you. The snowmobiles actually played a part in World War II. All these three countries ordered snowmobiles and used them in Europe in moving their troops around and so on. So snowmobiles were an important part for these snow-covered Scandinavian countries and so on, where Canada, Britain, and Finland were fighting. That'll be Sweden, Norway, up in that area there. Thank you. And again, this is a rear drive. Okay, the engine's in the back, but you got a steering wheel now instead of just a little stick that you're trying to move with. Okay. And things have changed over the years. The machines have become faster, more powerful, more expensive, and now it's a sport, both for friends and groups and families. Some of the innovations: in 1964, the first two-stroke engine was developed. Yamaha developed new technology using two-stroke engine, twin cylinders. All of this gave it more power. 1978, liquid cooling. The Polaris came out with independent front suspension, which made your ride over rougher territories much more enjoyable. Four-stroke engine came out in the 1990s. And today, some of the snowmobiles, you can buy them with GPS and Bluetooth. And the Bluetooth you can actually use to talk to other members of your group while you're on the trail. And clothing. This winter we were in the old barn several weekends, and people come in and the stuff that they took off, the helmets, the gloves, the scarves, the vests inside, the full pantsuit, the boots and so on. You know, you're riding at sometimes 0, 10 below, you're traveling at a good speed. All that gear was pretty important. The helmets became a critical part of that as well, especially with the speeds that those things can reach today. Snowmobiling is a worldwide experience, and these are the countries today that have a significant number of snowmobile groups and snowmobiling. All the way to Japan. We don't think about it, but northern Japan, well, that's where the Olympics were, Winter Olympics were that year. Northern Japan has loads and loads of snow, and snowmobiling is popular there as well. And that brings us to the gathering tonight. The Inlet Barnstormers. This is your new, on the left is your new one?
Yes.
Okay, that was the old one. You'll see that on, it's on some of the t-shirts and so on. But this is their new logo. Okay. But the Barnstormers are more than just a snowmobile club. And that's what I hope to show you tonight. This was the beginning of their club, in February 1998. Here's the list of officers: President Bob Gordon, Vice President Al Sislo, Secretary Emma Smith, and Treasurer Linda Gordon. Dues were $10, family $15, and in 2000 they incorporated. This was their first newsletter, okay, that they sent out. And they talked about some of the activities that they were involved in that year. They had a poker run. They had a Christmas tree burning at at the boat launch on 4th Lake. Everybody brought their Christmas trees in. Then they had cooked hot dogs and marshmallows and so on. They had a February 14th. It was a sweetheart ride. Now, there was no explanation as to what that meant and what that entailed. Did you have to take your wife or could you take your sweetheart? I don't know. They didn't.
Oh,
But anyways, this was their first newsletter. And here is the group, or part of the group that was instrumental in starting it. I could recognize a few people. On the far left was Dave Bergstresser. I find Bill Farrow in the great shirt in the middle. Bob Gordon is the second from the right on there. I saw Greg Clark somewhere in there. Yeah, he's got a blue t-shirt. And I think I saw Jerry Levy. If you can recognize anybody else, anybody see anybody else you know? This was one of the first groups. And you see where they met, okay? Well, part of the name came from the fact that the old barn was the only place big enough that they could gather. And so the Barnstormers became their name. This was it. Everything they owned was in that building. That was their first storage unit. Okay, when they first began, it was built on the property they got from B.J. Queen. When you see where they are today, you'll realize how far they've really come. Oh, I'm sorry. Here's the first. This was the first newsletter, and so here were the events. A round robin where they went from one restaurant to another. The poker run, which I'll explain a little bit later. On the poker run, they went to a number of different bars and restaurants. They'd start at one and work their way through, and there was a system to what they were doing, and I'll explain that in a few minutes. And yeah, this is where they had the tree burning. They had a family picnic in the Moose River Plains, and they had a guided sweetheart ride. And then they had their annual meeting on March of 1999 at the old barn. By 2005, the state had to get their 2 cents in, and now they started registering the vehicles. There was a 2-tier set of registrations. If you were a member of a snowmobile club in New York State, your registration was $45. If you weren't, the registration was $100. So for the $30 you paid for the registration, for the membership, and then the $45 you paid, you saved yourself at least $25 right there. So it really encouraged people to belong to these clubs. Now that was a good thing too, because by belonging to those clubs, the clubs could kind of regulate, and it wouldn't be people just scattered flying at 90 miles an hour. They had some rules and things that they wanted people to follow if they were members of their club. So that was a boon to them with these changes that came in 2005. Also, from 10 to 14 in order to ride by yourself. Here we see the changes in numbers.
Jim, that's wrong.
How's that?
It's 10 to 13, you gotta take a safety course, and you gotta be able to ride within 500 feet of a parent or a guardian.
Okay.
14 to 17, you take the class, you can ride by yourself.
Okay, so the 14-year-olds, if they take the class, can ride by themselves.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. This shows you the growth between 1991 and 2007, 2008. So in 1991, there were, in Herkimer County, Hamilton didn't get figured into this chart, there are 82 original registrations and 2,749 renewal of registrations. The state had a registration number of 111,102. And the trend from 1991 to 1992 was 49,000 registered. In 2007-08, 128,283. So this thing exploded in terms of popularity. Now, with the Barnstormers, snowmobiling isn't the only thing that they're involved with. Yeah, I'll show you some of the activities they do that are having fun, but there were community activities that they did as well. Then there's the equipment and home base that they maintain and all the trail work that they do. So this is more than just riding a snowmobile for a few months in the winter time. This is Barnstormers is a group of volunteers. This was one of their poker runs. I can identify the picture here is Bob Gordon Jr., that's their son. He's now in Florida. This is Carolyn Trimbach, Virginia Gordon, who is Bob Jr.'s wife, some of the participants, and Ernie Gilbert is registering somebody for the poker run. Now, what you do is, it's a fundraiser for them, and you pay a registration fee, and then you have a list of businesses. And it could go all the way up into Long Lake and all the way over into Lowville. It just depended on what they were doing that time. But you'd go and visit those, and you get a playing card from a deck of cards. And if there were 18 places, you got 18 cards. Okay? And then you came back home to the starting spot, and you'd turn in your cards. Well, you might have 4 aces, or you might have a flush, or you might, whatever. The winning card gets $300. The second place, so it's like poker. So the best hand gets $300. That was Adam Keller in this particular event. The second place was Matt Zenman, and he got $200. The third place was Jim Mezengaker. I can't pronounce his name well, but he got $100 for third place. And then if you visited all 18 sites on the trip, even if you didn't have the best hand, your name got put in a pot and it was pulled out, and Carolyn Trimbach ended up winning $100 for visiting all 18 sites. But they collected more money than they paid out, because that money was then used to give back to the community, and I'll show you some of the things that they did with that. Another fun activity, a picnic out on the trail. It could be down in Big Moose Plains, wherever they decided to have it. This is Ron and Sandy Nihil, is that correct, I think? Nihil, okay, Ron and Cindy. And look at the table set up there. And you're out in the middle of nowhere. This isn't, in somebody's parking lot. And you pull up with your snowmobile and have a picnic. You see the signs in there. That's critical. I'm going to show you later a map of the snowmobile trails. And it would be pretty easy to get lost if you didn't have some signage there that gave you a clue as to where you were going and what direction. Of course, parades. This is the 4th of July in Old Forge. That's one of their trackers. And this is the vehicle behind is what they use to take workers into in the fall into the woods to repair the trails and so on. But that's pretty calm compared to St. Patrick's Day. Again, this is down on Old Forge. And they took St. Patrick's Day seriously. Well, when you have a fire and ice celebration, I guess, you know, you just have to let it all out. And here is the outhouse race. Okay, so the title of this particular piece is Rhonda the Renovator. Okay, I don't know if that's Rhonda in there or not, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And the sign on the side says under construction. Okay. If you've never seen this, what they do is they have a field or a space marked out. What, I don't know what the distance is, maybe 100 yards or out in the ice.
Probably about maybe 30 yards.
Okay, yeah, because these people don't usually run.
No.
So, and you got the two guys pushing, and you got the one person inside, and it's a race, and you know they race against each other, and the fastest one is the winner. At least there's toilet paper in there. That's good. And of course, the Christmas party, and where else but at the old barn. It's a pretty festive occasion. Kathy, for the longest time, had one of the most beautiful Christmas displays, winter's displays, up on the stage. Took her hours and hours to put that together. But this was the place to gather for the Christmas parties. I don't recognize, if you recognize people, just let me
Yeah,
know.
we do.
What are some of the names, Don? Let me.
Well, the guy with the suspenders is me.
Oh, good, Don. All right.
Is that you next to me?
Yeah.
So it's Jim White next to Don,
Okay.
and Sharon.
Yep.
I'm on the end in the red sweater, and then Sharon's next to me with the Santa Claus hat, and then Rhonda the Renovator,
Okay. Oh, this is good.
and Dave Freely.
Oh, good. Nice. It's not all fun and games. A good share of the Barnstormers community, Barnstormers is serving the community. This was a cancer ride. It was called the Pink Ribbon Ride, and they brought 300 riders together for this particular event. It started out at the old barn. Riders came from as far away as Michigan for this event. One of the riders, Frank from Hawley, Pennsylvania, decided he'd dress his snowmobile up with a pink bra, and that's what, you can't see it there in black and white, but that's what he has on the front of his machine. They rode over 100 miles that particular day and ended up at the old barn for dinner. And the money raised was upwards of $56,000. And that particular evening, two local women, Jean Cameron of Old Forge and Lisa Parker of Lowville, were each given a $500 gift card to help pay medical expenses for their cancer treatments. Again, this is the kind of stuff above and beyond the picnics and the you know, poker runs and so on. This is the kind of stuff that makes the Barnstormers a special organization. Education is a key, and you were just talking about that, John. That takes place right in this room. There are a number of the members of the club, and also DEC comes in. This particular one was December of 2024. Don Bartel, Dave Forte, Barb Winslow, and Ed Zikaris. How do you pronounce it? Zakaris, okay. And then George Pearson was there learning how to become a trainer. But the kids sit there for a good portion of the day. They feed them lunch and go through all the material. And then the kids have to take a test. And they have to show that they've actually learned something. Okay? So this is, again, part of the way they extend their experience and so on to make sure that riding in our area is safe. Each year a local student receives a scholarship. In 2022 it was Jamison Pratt, Thomas Levy, who you see in the picture, received it in 2023, Grace Heath in 2024, and we didn't have it on the plaque yet, so this year's recipient was Shay Sauer. Again, what is the scholarship? I didn't have an amount.
That's $1,000.
$1,000 given to one local student going on to college. I don't know if you know, Thomas actually went down to Florida and was trained as a underwater welder. And that's what he does now. And he's here, and then he'll get called by the union and say, we've got a job for you in New York, we've got a job for you in Albany, we've got a job for you in Buffalo, wherever he's needed. And off he goes. Helping in emergency services. One of the things the Barnstormers realize is that they're out in the middle of nowhere sometimes, and emergency equipment to get there is, you can't just take an ambulance off down one of these trails. And so the Barnstormers donated a brand new emergency sled. It's out in our barn here. You see Bob Gordon there. The sled was on the right, and I think that's Ron Spot St. Marie sitting on the sled. That's who it looks like. I do not recognize the girl behind him. Does anyone recognize her?
He was going on the sweetheart ride.
Yeah. But again, this is a $20,000 sled, okay? We have and it pulls a sled behind it where we can put the patient and so on, but no helicopter, no ambulance could get back to some of these places. So without this piece of machinery, we were kind of stuck in terms of rescuing. So this was a huge addition to our EMS here. Trail maintenance is a huge part of the Barnstormers. This, you see these track vehicles. This is what pulls the machinery to level the trails and pack them down. Sometimes they're out there in the middle of nowhere, and usually a lot of times it's night, isn't it, when you're packing trails?
No, we usually go out during the day.
You do, okay.
Yeah.
I know that the Inlet guys go out early in the morning. They'll go out at like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, but you're out in the middle of nowhere, and so all of these have GPS, which I would need because I'd get lost in a minute. But they also have radios so that they can contact, because